If you're hustling 24/7, and I know a lot of you agents are, your realtors are, constantly overwhelmed, doing all your own paperwork, lead gen, trying to run around from showing to showing, doing all your marketing, everything, plus running your life, not seeing the results you want, and just feeling like you're failing. You're not failing. You're just not knowing the right model, because unfortunately in our business, there is no real right model. You have to design the right model for you specifically, and also you have to make sure you're around the right people that are going to help you grow the right way. And that's something, unfortunately, not everyone gets to learn. And I think the dropout rate for real estate agents is so high because it is like throwing you to the wolves. And some people are great at it naturally. Very, very, very few people are. And I have seen people have great years and people have horrible years. People ride high for years and years and then crash out and burn out after a few years. So I think it's, a hit or a miss for some people, but I don't think there is 100% model for anybody. But today I'm going to show you if you're interested, and that's what the Empowered Agent's about. And so that's why I wanted to spin this new channel off of the Empowered Woman specifically for realtors, is show you how to build a business that really serves your life and not the other way around. Like, we're not working just to work. We want to work to have a life, to have a legacy for our family. There's many of us started this business to have time. Everyone that I talk to that gets in real estate, like, oh, it looks fun and it's going to be so much fun and time. So just remember that. So my promise is by the end of this video, and that's just this one video, you'll understand 3 shifts that took me from burnout, because I've been there many, many times, to consistency, a business that feels aligned, peaceful, intentional, and profitable. Like looking at your P&Ls, not, you're making $1 million and spending $1 million, right? You're actually taking money home, putting in the bank, having savings, and having a life with your family. That's huge, right? So looking back, for me, I'm a broker of record. I am actually a broker for 5 Realty of the state of Virginia. I opened up the state. I've also had a boutique brokerage, the Collaborative, before that. And then I was with Long & Foster, which is one of the larger brokerages in the area, for almost a decade. So I've been in the business quite some time, and I've been privileged to be a top producer at every single aspect, top 100, running a team, having the brokerage, doing many different types of the business. I pretty much stayed in the wheelhouse of residential. So if you're a commercial agent, this may not be your channel, but I think a lot of it does apply regardless. I've made incredible relationships with vendors, with partners, with other agents, co-op agents, and I've also had some horrible fiascos. And I just want to talk about, when I got into the business, it came out of desperation, like many people do when they go into business for themselves. I was exhausted from being in the corporate world. I worked in medical sales for 15 years in oncology, and anybody knows that business. It's pretty ruthless, pretty competitive. Headhunters are coming. It's a very high level, in my mind, business. I was paid very well, had great benefits, company car, company credit card, a lot of autonomy, but there were definitely golden handcuffs. And I tell this story over and over. I was producing, but I was miserable. So I got into the business, and then I almost just traded apples to apples or apples to oranges. It was still a ton of work. I worked basically 365 days that first couple of years to make it. I was number one. Not number one. I was actually the rookie of the year. That's what I mean by number one, by quite a bit at Long & Foster. It was a huge honor, and it was something I really was working towards. So I did quite well my first year, and I was producing, but I was really tired. I just didn't want to admit it. I got really sick, and I would work. I did everything, and people kept saying you can do it. I wanted to be top 10. I wanted to be top 100. I wanted to be in all those rankings on the paper. And it was that achievement. I gotta win. And I don't know who I was trying to prove this to, but I realized there was definitely a turning point where I realized it didn't really matter anymore how much I made, because I couldn't even enjoy it. It literally was working 7 days a week, all hours of the night, at a dinner, got texts, doing contracts. I couldn't even go to a movie without enjoying it, because I hadn't learned to structure the business, to say yes and no, and set my own rules for the game. So people were just coming, and I was like, sure. And they would say jump, and I would say, okay, how high? And it's a really, really hard place to be, and terrifying place to be, to say no to business, because you're so scared that you're going to go hungry. And I had 2 babies to feed at the time. And of course I got pregnant with my daughter during the business. And that was a whole nother level of, oh my gosh, I need to make money now. And I think one of the biggest things is that you kind of get into that place. And I think most agents that have been in the business at least a couple of years have felt that exact feeling, where you can't say no to any piece of business. Even at the back of your mind, probably not a right fit, or I don't want to drive an hour and a half to show this, or I may not know that area that well, and that might not be the best place for me. And so everyone kept telling me, like, you shouldn't say no to the business. The shift I think you have to stop identifying yourself is using even that word hustle. And I was guilty of that, saying hustle hard. Like, it was glorifying not sleeping, glorifying not resting. And it was a warning sign to me that it was too much, that I wasn't making space to rest. I wasn't making space to take care of myself even. Like, I stopped working out. I think I put on a good 15 pounds or so during that time period. I wasn't eating well. I was just like barely eating. And when I would get home, I would be starving and eat so much at night. The biggest thing learning is that just because you're busy doesn't mean you're productive. So a big thing is to learn, like, what are the things that you need to do that are actually like 20% of what you do that actually moves 80% of your business. The 80-20 rule is alive in so many parts of our life. So those are really big shifts. If you can make like a 2mm shift, it will make a huge difference in what you're doing today if you already are in the business. And I think it's important to know that your value is not the hours that you grind. You're not trading time for money. And I think the longer you do the business, you understand that you bring a value. You don't have to justify, oh, I need to show them how hard I'm working, so I need to like work really hard. Some of the deals are easier than others, and some deals are grueling that will eat you alive. And sometimes you end up making negative money from some clients, or they back out and you've done all this work and the deal just falls through. Those are horrible, but it happens. And anybody that's been in real estate has experienced that. Most people also lose opportunities, not because just they're not skilled, they're not paying attention to what they need to do, right? You need to focus and hone in on more that 20% rule. Like, where are you challenged? Are you not converting the leads that you have, or are you constantly chasing for more leads? So those are kind of things to think about and ask yourself an honest question and sit still and think about that. Shift 2 is going to be building systems that actually buy back your time. Dan Martell wrote this great book, and I always suggest my clients read it. It's called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell, and it's blue. It's a great book. It's very easy. And it basically talks about how do you leverage? How do you hand off things that don't make sense? How do you use your calendar and make it your boss? How do you create systems which will then actually give you peace, more predictability? And in that place, you're not running around like, kind of like when you make a meal and you gather all of your ingredients, it's so much easier to make the meal than getting the ingredients as you're making the meal, like running and looking and then all of a sudden realizing, oh, I need to go to the store to get that because I don't have it yet. So kind of think about that for your business. Like, where are you not putting things in place that should be running on its own that you're doing manually? Where could you be putting things into place, especially today with AI? Automations are so big. I mean, you could even ask ChatGPT, please teach me how to create an automation. It'll teach you. English is the language of AI, not programming. So it's actually very friendly to us. We just have to play around it and get used to it. Everything is hard before it's easy is what I always tell people. So these are kind of things to think about. Like, what are the systems? A checklist is a system. If you do something every single time, that's a system. Like, we don't even realize we have systems. Sometimes we have them that are working for us negatively too, because we're putting a habit into place that doesn't make sense. And one of the things is that, looking at the systems that are put in place for Five, when I joined Five, which is so great, is that they have their own system. They have SkySlip to put all their documents in. They have a process for, making sure that you get paid correctly. They have a process if you're going to work with a TC, a transaction coordinator, they're going to help you. Every brokerage has that. And so that was one thing that I always look for. What is simple in the brokerage, or is it going to be more complicated for me to do? So it should be easy and simple, and you should be able to duplicate it and not have difficulty to train someone else, like a VA or an assistant that's helping you do that. So those are really big things. That's a shift too. Once I built the systems, for me, it would be like checklists, how things happen when I have a client. How do I handle the inspections? What do I do when I go set up a buyer appointment? How am I going to go through things with them? The conversations I have with them. Which lenders I'm going to be sending people to? I have a handful that I love to use, and I give them choices, like options, right? Knowing and also looking at my schedule ahead of time, my availability. That's a system, right? Those are things that I use. It's not guessing anymore. So I knew ahead of time, and just knowing kind of gives you that perspective. So you're not like running around blind and freaking out, and showing a response that's not calm, cool, collected, and the expert that your client deserves. And that itself calms your flight or flight response. You're not running around wasting time. And you can also look at your calendar and go, that makes sense. This doesn't make sense. I can take on a couple more clients, or I need to refer them out. So those are big things. And the third shift you're going to need to think about doing is your energy. Energy is everything. And I talk about this a lot. People don't realize it. When you walk into a room, your energy shows up before you show up. If you've had a really horrible day and you come home, your family knows, stay out of mom's way. Or if you've had a great day, you can tell. right? So you can't deny that energy is not a real thing. So you want to think about, how are you allowing the business to affect you? What type of energy are you bringing to your business? Be still and think about it. Are you depleted? Because your clients will feel it and you will attract not so great clients. If you're joyful, if you're alive and energized, grateful, if you come from a place of service, how can I serve? If you come from wisdom, from expertise, not a scarcity, abundance, those are things that align with people and attract people. And it's a huge mindset reframe. This is a little bit woo-woo, but if you really think about it, it makes total sense, right? Aligned agents produce more. It's always like that one. There's always a couple agents and brokerages that are just like skipping down the street. Everything looks easy to them because they make it easy. They see it to be easy. They look for the opportunity. They look for the joy. If it's not working, they release it. And they're like, this isn't working for me. I'm going to move to the next. And that's why things keep flowing. They're not like causing all these blocks. I know, easy to say, hard to do, but just keep in mind those top 3 things. If you give a small notion and just kind of document what your energy is like when you're with people, whether it's your morning, maybe you need to get your hype song on, maybe you need to work out, change your energy, do a meditation, prayer, whatever that may be for you. Think about doing that before you go to an appointment, before you prospect, and before you put yourself around people. It's going to make a huge difference in your business and your life. So you really cannot pour out of an empty tank too. So that's why I say again, make sure when you're doing this energy piece, you're pouring into yourself first, because as you're overflowing, you can give so much more if you're happy and full, right? So empowered agents, I always say this, protect their energy first, preserve, protect, so that they can give more to their family, to their friends, to their business, to everyone around themselves, right? So that's a really, really, really big point to think about. And you don't need to grind your way to success. I know that there's a whole thing about how hard everything is. And there are days that are difficult, I'm not gonna lie. And I had a really rough 2025 for different reasons. I mean, I didn't lose money, but I wasn't as successful monetarily as I wanted it to be, but I took different time. I traveled, I did a whole life, I feel like, and I grew so much as a person. So I feel like I won in so many other ways, but it wasn't my most stellar year, sales wise. And I think the whole country felt that. It was a little bit of a wonky year. So you have to understand, like, success and growth is measured in many different ways. It's not just the dollar volume. So think about, how are you growing in success in your business? And are you doing business with people you want to do business with? Are you working by referral, which is my preferred way of doing business? And it is like the best real estate will happen when your life is aligned. It kind of just flows. A rhythm happens, a groove happens. And I always say, like, activity breeds activity in the business. So if you get in the habit of movement and moving and flowing, it will just kind of the ball will keep going. And you deserve a business that gives back to you. You have earned it. There is no reason that there isn't enough abundance for everybody. And I always say there's enough business for everybody. And it's such an important thing. So if you're a realtor who wants a business that's really aligned with yourself, these are the things you need to think about, not chaotic. Drop the word empowered below. We're going to be growing this channel. I'm going to be doing a ton of takeaways, trainings, whatever have you, alignments, talking about recruiting. If you are in a rev share situation like myself, it can work for any company, and love to reach out. I have a stand store as well. So if you want to book a time with me, feel free to do so. And I would love to talk about alignment. Like, what do you struggle with? Choosing the right brokerage. If you have questions about things, confidentially, of course, and just shoot me a message. I'm also on Instagram at Alicia.RBA. Till next time, stay empowered. Remember the 3 takeaways. Don't let anybody steal your energy. Have a great day.